Hello, everyone. My name is Masuma Lonzak. I go by Missy, as many of you know. I am the programming administrator at the Office of Multicultural Affairs, and I would like to welcome you all for being here today and celebrating APIDA Heritage. Thank you all for taking the time, for joining us. And without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand over to Joyce Wong, our rising IAC leader. She will be taking a moment to acknowledge and share some thoughts. If you could please drive your attention to Joyce Wong. Thank you.
Hi, thanks, Missy. Hello everyone and welcome. For those of you who have not yet met me, my name is Joyce. I am a member of Interasian Council and I am unapologetically Chinese American. So the APIDA, the Asian Pacific Islander Desi American community, has been suffering at the hands of racism and inequity for centuries. But the events of the past year have brought these experiences into the limelight. As the COVID pandemic has raged, so did racism against members of our community. We've seen our elders get murdered and beaten, families attacked, and women gunned down for simply fulfilling their duties as employees. So many in the APIDA community are hurting. We want to heal to educate ourselves on Asian American history and the intersection of colonialism, gender, even science with racism. And at the same time, we want it to end. The members of the APIDA community do not deserve the injustices that have been both explicitly and implicitly directed at us for years, nor do they deserve to be gaslit and ignored in conversations on race and social change. In times like these, it is important that everyone mobilizes at their own pace. Some people have processed the rapid fire of racist incidents faster than others, and some take to social media platforms to advocate for justice and spill their thoughts and emotions. And still others disconnect for a while to collect themselves and turn the conversations inward. All these are valid ways that we as APIDA individuals process the trauma of the events that we witness, like side characters of a screenplay, watching with bated breath. But despite all this, it is important to recognize that the APIDA community isn't alone. We have supporters who are rallying for us, and solidarity between various communities of minority and marginalized identities are progressively being built. Together, our communities can amplify each other's voices and advocate and vote into existence greater change. So to conclude, sometimes I ask myself how the world would look like if there were no racism and no person be made a target simply because of their identity. And to be honest, it's a difficult question to answer and certainly one that we won't answer soon. But perhaps to look on the bright side, we'll never know until we get there. So thank you for letting me share my thoughts about this issue.
Thank you, Joyce, for taking the time to be with us here today. So we are going to go ahead and continue with the event, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce our moderator for the evening. Georgie De Sanson is a cultural president of JHU Filipino Student Association. They are a junior studying cognitive science, mathematics, and Spanish from Hawaii who hopes to pursue a career in linguistics in the future. They have been a member of FSA since their freshman year and would be able to describe their experience at Hopkins without mentioning the community they built with the Filipino students. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand over to Georgie.
Thank you so much, Missy, and thank you to OMA for organizing this wonderful event. As Missy said, my name is Georgie, and I am the cultural president of JHU's Filipino Student Association, also known as FSA, but as we like to call ourselves, the FASamily. I am also a member of the Hawaii Student Association, and I sing a cappella for Humming Jay, Hopkins Korean Interest a cappella group. So, being part of the APIDA community has impacted my life greatly. But it wasn't until college that I had opportunities to consciously engage with my Philam identity. APIDA history is not only a huge part of who I am and my personal history as a child of Filipino immigrants, but it is a huge part of American history because it is American history. Despite the history of anti Asian sentiment in the US, I am proud to be Philam, and it makes me hopeful to be able to have opportunities like this to talk with and learn from community organizers like SETI, who we have here with us today, and to be part of organizations like FSA, where I'm able to build community and embrace my identities side by side with people like me. So Stephanie Sajor and Eddie M. Ghana Jr., also known as Steady, are spoken word artists and community organizers based in Los Angeles. They are founders of Sunday Jump, a community open mic series in historic Filipino town, and are leaders of KMB Pro People Youth, a progressive grassroots organization. Since meeting at UC Irvine, they have performed their poetry, facilitated workshops, and delivered keynotes on the radio, television, and stages across the nation. As organizers, they believe that the arts serve as an important avenue for personal growth, developing community activists, and ultimately greater social change. With that being said, take it away, Steady. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Georgie.
Yes, thank
really
you.
appreciate the introduction and
We
to be
do, we
sharing
do.
space with everyone here
Yes.
at Johns Hopkins.
Super excited to be able to share stories with you all. So again, my name is Stephanie.
My name is
And
Eddie.
together we are
Steady.
Steady. Eddie's going to talk a little bit more about poetry etiquette. So we're going to be sharing our stories today through poetry, through talking.
Yes, and so usually with a live audience, in the space, we are now in a digital space, so we feed off of your energy. And there is a chat box here, so feel free to drop emojis, drop exclamation points. We really want to hear and resonate with you all, and just feed off of that. And if you're joining us on YouTube, all the better, or on Facebook, all the better. We can feel y'all. So
Yes.
again, usually it's like the snaps and the claps and all that. But we'll do it in emojis and we'll still feel that positive energy.
Yes, indeed. So we just wanted to talk about how it's especially poignant to connect with you all in light of the recent events in Atlanta and the continued violence that is occurring across the nation. We see it as our duty to challenge the dominant narrative surrounding our identities as Asian Americans, which is why we're especially thankful to be with you all today. The pandemic has given us the opportunity to connect with communities we may otherwise not have been able to connect with.
Right, and then so with that, we have been able to build collective power in an even greater way than before as well. And us from where we are on the West Coast in Los Angeles, talking to y'all on the East Coast, or since this is on the web,
could be anywhere.
Being able to share our stories is part of that. So again, thank you for having us.
Yes, so as mentioned in our bio, Eddie and I are co-founders of a space called Sunday Jump. It's a open mic series, a grassroots art space that provides a safe space for marginalized voices to share their stories and just build genuine connections through the arts. And so first off, we have a little video talking about all the spaces that have inspired us to create our own space.
Right, all the shout outs,
Yes.
in there.
So we're going to share it right now.
This is dedicated to the community that inspired us to jump on a Sunday.
Like a rabbit who stumbled upon
Too many uncultivated carrots.
there is honesty from the common ground.
To the summit with words. Going up on a Tuesday night. There are chest rumbling heartstorms in this cafe, bookstore, lounge, den, and barber shop. You will know it's happening. It is impossible to be impassive.
After you breathe in this natural high to take flight in school skeptics
Who don't believe in freedom of speech.
Look around you. We are poets on soapboxes without definitive endings. We
Don't be nice.
We
Go in.
We
Speak easy.
You might ask.
How do you do that?
We reply.
We just speak it easy. Let stories shatter glassless walls and open minds at festival slams and open mics, because our mic as a collective is a great one.
Revel in the perks of a poet's paradise with palms up every week, bi-weekly, or once every month.
Snap fingers.
Satisfy hunger pangs, be elevated
In the way you express.
and you will find who you truly are.
Between the bars.
In the breaks of the silence on the avenue.
When you write and spit under dim lights or full moon.
Wherever you are.
Remember, in every neighborhood, every city, every village,
In every line, every poem, there will always be community.
That's it.
So with that said, these spaces that we shouted out were all like almost every line is like a different open mic space that you can find here in throughout Southern California, from San Diego to Orange County to LA. These are spaces that have inspired us, and it was important for us to pay tribute to them because we are not who we are without those who have helped us grow.
Right, and can't forget about spaces on the East Coast as well too. You know, Nurican, Both Boys and Poets,
Yes.
all the spaces kind of coming together.
Yes.
And so with these spaces that have inspired us to continue to share our stories, to create our own open mic, we have found community in there. We found a chosen family, and it's an extension of our family.
Right.
So with all this, as children of immigrants,
Right.
as brown Asians, want to think about how we are perceived in this country. We carry the look of
the so-called
Yeah.
perpetual foreigner. It's kind of like when people ask you the question, where are you from? I'm from Pico Rivera, Pico.
I'm from the Bay Area.
I'm from Los Angeles.
I'm from 510.
I'm from 310.
Where are you from? I'm from California, the states with a roadmap of memories. I feel connected. Follow the 101 from the Golden Gate Bridge
To downtown Los Angeles. Take the 5 to the 55 to the 405 to
from
Irvine.
the 405 to 55 to 5 to Anaheim.
From the 5 to the 101 to the 110 to the 10 West.
Koreatown is where we'll start a family.
No. Where are you from? Our families are from the Philippines.
My mom is from Las Piñas City in Metro Manila.
Gonzaga, Cagayan. My dad is from Cabugao, Ilocos Sur.
Benakayan, Cavite.
My
My parents speak
Ilocano,
Tagalog, and I only understand it. I speak English, and they understand it as Americanized. Haven't I written this poem before?
Let me get back to your question. My family is from a sweltering country that is fattened by pork barrels and fried by a burning question.
Bak ba ito nangyari? Bak ba ito nangyari? Bak ba ito nangyari?
I'm not going to translate because it will lose its meaning.
Meaning, why should the Philippines trust a country that doesn't let it speak for itself?
I know what is happening. I know what you are trying to ask me.
I know what you are going to say next. No, I'm not from a lumpia you ate at a friend's birthday party. No, I'm not from a halo halo you ordered at Jollibee. No, I'm not from a balut you saw on a rerun episode of Fear Factor. No, I'm not from a nurse that examined you months ago and was so hospitable. No, I'm not from a dream vacation to sleep on white beaches. No, I'm not from a whale shark on a billboard that said everything is fun there. We are not from the preconceived notions of where you think we are from. So, where are you from? I come from a place, the same place.
Where you ask yourself the same question.
Where am I from?
And the answer should always be,
I'm from here, right here. So we here, y'all.
We are here.
We are here, y'all. We are here, y'all, together and sharing space. And so it's very important to, yes, recognize and be firm with our identities here on this line. So
right. With that said, like, even though we are here, we also recognize that this land is stolen land.
Right.
For us in LA, this is the land that belongs to the Tongva people. So
Right.
we recognize that as well.
in the Bay Area, where I'm originally from, the Ohlone people and Shula people. Yes. And so thinking about the different intersections of identity and history, and also with community, Steph and I were both organizers in that type of social justice aspect. And so we are organizers of KMB, Kabataan Makabayan, or Pro People Youth. And so founded in 1999, although we haven't been as involved since 1999.
No.
We got involved in
We joined
2011, 2012.
Yes.
But it's been ongoing. And so with that type of work, it's important to recognize how we as a community can build with other communities across the world.
Exactly. So solidarity is a huge, huge pillar of the work that we do with KMB. Specifically, as far as like staying in our lane, we talk a lot about going against the model minority myth, right? So if you're not familiar, maybe you are, maybe you're not, model minority myth paints this false narrative that Asians are the right kind of immigrant, that we are economically successful, therefore racism doesn't hold us back, and that if we prescribe to being that model minority, then our safety is assured.
Yeah, and you know, like we know this to not be true. right? That white supremacy will target you whether or not you're a good Asian or not. We know this because of the rise of anti-Asian violence at the individual level and systemic level, from hate crimes to police brutality.
Right, and this is why the model minority myth is so dangerous. It unfairly pits us against other communities of color. But we know that solidarity is essential to our collective liberation. And sometimes this movement may feel exhausting, maybe even hopeless, almost feeling like you're just like a stationary camera watching events unfold.
And so, as we watch these events unfold, have a moment to think and resonate and how that would feel like. I am the candid, nonpartisan, and unprejudiced. It is not what you know, it's what you can prove, is what I can do.
Is what I can do.
Only proof the boys in blue are bruising the people.
See?
Look, zoom in on their badges, they do not brandish. Focus on citizen scars, wounds, and scabs.
The boys in blue have suffocated the facts. Invisible guns in plastic bags, and I was there.
I was there.
I saw everything.
I saw everything.
I replayed the footage.
I replayed the footage. Officer Sir, he is not resisting.
Officer Sir, he can't breathe.
Officer Sir, rib cages are not jail cells for bullets. Excessive to unholster your weapon. Life is worth more than a split second, more than a 2-year sentence parole. This is not a poem.
This is an addendum for Sandra Bland. Remember.
For Fong Lee, please remember. For Mike Brown, please remember.
I missed them.
I missed them.
Out of frame.
I am sorry.
I couldn't look
when I needed to.
I wish I could undo these screws.
It is not what you know, it is what you can prove. It is what I can do. I need your hand. I can't be God. If I fall,
pick me up.
If I shut down,
fix me.
If I can't move,
give me mobility.
Record. Bodies upon bodies have been battered and bloodied by batons and parabellum bullets. Bodies upon bodies have been battered and bloodied by batons and parabellum bullets. Bodies upon bodies have been battered and bloodied by batons and parabellum bullets. Pause.
Will it happen again?
Film never ends. What we can do is shoot them.
So this particular poem was actually written like a number of years ago, and it's very telling that it holds relevancy today, you know, particularly in the wake of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, the protests that sparked after the murders. So cameras were used to document the abuse by police. Hundreds upon hundreds of videos were coming out during the protest. And that isn't to say that we are calling for police reform with body cameras. No, that is not what we're saying. We're saying it is because of the people's ability to document what was happening to them that can lead to a culture shift in reimagining what community safety can actually look like.
And so today we are still seeing these injustices. Very recently, a Filipino man by the name of Angelo Quinto in the Bay Area was having a mental health crisis, and police responded, and he was brutalized by them and died 3 days after from his injuries. His mother recorded the aftermath of the attack, and we may not have known about it if she wasn't there to record it. And so let's remember the name of Angelo Quinto and all those who have fallen to state-sanctioned violence.
Right, yes. So, you know, taking everything we've said into account, switching gears a little bit, we want to talk a little bit more about, you know, our growth as individuals and how we are connected to this greater movement, right? And so we want to talk about like that individual, but then also how it is connected to the landscape of organizing.
Right.
By the time I was in 4th grade, I was already 5 feet tall, almost a full head above my peers. By the time I was in 5th grade, I was 5'2", and I've been that way ever since.
By the time I was in 7th grade, I was 5'2", only grew 3 inches ever since, and I'm 5'6" on a good day. My sprouting happened so slowly. I remember that my family didn't save wall space in the hallway to track my height over the years.
Because growth happens incrementally.
Bit by bit.
So minuscule you don't even notice.
You have one leaf, then two,
then a whole branch leaning towards the sun.
Let's lay in the sun together. This is an invitation to build more branches.
So we're a forest. So we're an ecosystem, self-sustaining.
Growth comes from somewhere. What is your sun?
Is it backs cracked by bending over Ilocano rice fields?
Is it smog-filled lungs for riding diesel-fueled jeepneys in the Philippines? Is it 7,000 islands across the Pacific Ocean?
She sends millions of us away.
Millions of us away.
Only for us to yearn returning. But she puts us on boats and planes because she's drowning, her face barely peeking above the water.
Is it a gratitude that you're still learning to articulate?
I love yous are unfamiliar and embarrassing, like red balloon cheeks trying to find peace in this war zone home.
It is the flowers you send your mom on her birthday, the card for your dad on Father's Day, gratitude, but hesitating over forgiveness. Is it bumping shoulders,
uncrossing arms,
holding a breath,
feeling your feet on the ground, and
letting regrets go like 1,000 paper cranes, wishing
for another day to feel your heartbeat boom bounce?
This sun is the people who have nourished me with fistfuls of quotes from Gloria, Angela, and Audrey. I carry them like bouquets, gift them to our youth
so they too can smell pomp and circumstance.
This sun is a slow burn that hurts.
Hiccups,
skipping,
like a record on repeat, waiting for you to reset the song or build a new playlist.
A reflection of 30 years.
That feel like only 20 years.
That feel like 2 decades ago.
Or only 10 years ago. And
what is time anyway? This sun is this night.
Nights like these and
the nights that came before.
And the nights on the horizon.
Or does your sun look more like the moon? Just remember that the moon is reflecting the sun anyway. So, growth, right? And
yes.
So we are here. We are here, 2021. I don't even know why I had to look at the year, like the calendar. It's 2021. Time's going very slow, right? But also very, very fast at the same time.
Right.
And so as we go into our last poem, we want to look to the past to inform our present and shape our future. As Filipino Americans, as Filipinx Americans, we have a long and storied history to learn of and be proud of, one of struggles and triumphs.
Yes, as children of immigrants, who went through numerous obstacles to get here.
And so it was important for me to learn my family's history. And I was fortunate enough to connect that history to our people's history with ethnic studies. And, actually shout out to James Logan High School. It has the only ethnic studies department at the high school level. So very thankful, to not only learn my language through Tagalog, but learn about Filipino heritage studies, learn about Larry Itliong, learn about the solidarity work with Philip Vera Cruz, Dolores Huerta, and ongoing for our labor movement. I mean, we can go on into that, but definitely ethnic studies, please. If you're in high school, please take it. If you have it there, if not, advocate, talk to your teachers. We must have more ethnic studies, because why is it the standard that is taught American history or white history? Let's have our people's history being in the forefront.
Like our history is the elective, even though we are part of history too.
Right.
And on a personal note, talking about this stuff is super important to me because I shoulder the legacy of my family, of my grandfather. So on one side, my grandfather was a farm worker in the fields of Hawaii, working the sugarcane fields. On the other side, my grandfather was a soldier in the U.S. Armed Forces of the Far East during World War II, during Japanese occupation and imperialism in the Philippines. And taking that with me and being able to connect that history to the greater history of Filipino Americans is honestly a privilege to have, and it's part of what we bring to the work that we do every day here in LA locally. Some of the stuff we do also includes showing people, giving historic Filipino town tours, for example. My family, when they immigrated to LA, lived in the area, and so I'm giving back to my community by being able to be, as a citizen of the neighborhood, as someone who grew up there, being able to connect what is happening in the neighborhood today to the history of Filipinos in the neighborhood.
So usually October, right, is Filipino American History Month. The Filipino American History Month is not limited to that one. I mean, we are in March, right? Later on in May, Asia Pacific American Heritage Month, just all throughout.
Right.
So definitely learning about our people's history in connection with the greater community.
Exactly.
And so with knowing this history, Steph and I are very proud to say, I'm Filipino, Filipina.
I'm Filipino, Filipina.
We are Philippine X.
Replace the F with the P. Filipino, Filipino.
Switch between O and A. Filipino, Filipina. Replace the O
or A
with an X. We are Philippine X.
The X is intersectionality.
X.
To be inclusive.
X.
Not limited to the gender binary.
X. Much like how we spoke.
X.
Before colonizers our throats.
X.
Sha, sha.
X.
They did it, they did it.
X. They came from Spain, 1521 to 1898.
They came to the United States, 1899 to X. They taught us how to speak, to pray before we eat, to believe in a religion, follow a God we've never heard of, make up a sign in our own written language, bow by in, becomes too difficult for them to translate.
They created a kudlit in the shape of a cross, so that whenever we write, whenever we read, we are learning lies.
X. Where is our history? X1. Morbe, California, 1587. X2. Samuel, Louisiana, 1763. X3. Philippine American, born 1899. X4. Possible rise of 1930. X5. Resistance Act of 1946.
X6, Delano Grape Strike of 1965.
X7,
People Power Movement in 1986.
X8,
Tugnaw Makabayan in 1999.
X9,
Tagalog and Peace Studies in 2003.
X10,
Philippine Access for Black Lives since 2013.
X. We are Philippine X. When Adam Carolla said, we have nothing but Manny Pacquiao and sex tours.
When Manny Pacquiao said gay marriage was worse than animals.
When Peter Versbach said, it's a good relationship, we were colonized.
When Duterte said he'd be happy to slaughter them.
When Trump said, we come from a shithole country.
When the New York Times said, we do not exist.
X. For X, everything X, that X, we X, R, X, everything that we are X, this X represents a list that we have so much more to do. Here in LA, y'all. I'm sure you can hear that.
Sirens. Yeah.
But definitely, you know, the work continues. The work continues. The labor there is important. And in doing the labor and doing the organizing, what's also important is your own self-care, your wellness, because this work that we do is not a sprint, it is a marathon. And so very important to drink your water. If you have your water, drink your water right now, be nourished, so we can continue to support our people.
It's Eddie's social work background coming out.
Yes, take care of yourself, wellness.
Yes.
And so with this said, we want to thank everyone for having us here in this virtual format. Thank you to Johns Hopkins. Thank you to Missy, to Georgie, to Isabel, to Joyce, to Javon, to everyone for welcoming us. It's a great way that we're able to stay connected from the West Coast, you know, all the way to the East Coast.
So as poets and activists, we strongly encourage you to share your stories, because if you don't, someone else will, or worse, no one
else will. Right?
And no one knows your story better than you, so share your story.
Share your story, please, please, please.
Yes.
And so in the spirit of community, we're going to close out our set with Isang Baksak.
So we don't know if like Filipino orgs on the East Coast do this, but here on the West Coast, or especially California, Filipino orgs, we do the Isang Baksak. I see someone typed that.
There you go.
There you go.
Yes,
so we're going to do that. And
yes.
you want to explain?
And so Isang Baksak means one down, one fall onto the next. And so to understand Isang Baksak is to also understand his history. And so Isang Baksak with the single clap that was used during the People Power movement, where organizers, families all gathered together in the streets of the Philippines to oust Ferdinand Marcos, the dictator at that time. And so they would end their meetings with the single clap, Isang Baksak. And there's also an element of that as the unity clap.
Yes.
And so the unity clap was used during the labor movement, where I mentioned earlier with Larry Itliong and Dolores Huerta, where Filipino American and Mexican American agricultural workers came together to fight for equal workers' rights. And so they would have the unity clap, where everyone would clap slowly, like the heartbeat of the people, and go faster, faster, and faster, and faster.
The unity clap, right?
Mhm,
And
yes.
then student organizers here in California brought those.
Yeah, like early 2000s.
Early 2000s
Yeah.
brought those two concepts together to create the Isang Bagsak, which a lot of Filipino orgs use at the end of their meetings now, where you unite the unity clap,
Unity clap,
where
right.
you start with like a slow crescendo, like it's a slow clap,
Right.
that mimics your heartbeat and the heartbeat of the people, and then it goes faster and faster and faster until you say Isang Bagsak, and then all clap as one. So we're gonna do that to mark the end of the set, and right after that, we'll talk to y'all if you have any questions.
The Q&A.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but we're gonna do the Isang Bagsak, and then we'll go into the Q&A. So.
All right. So, folks at home, you can feel free to join in.
Yeah. All right.
Isang Bagsak!
All right.
Hey.
Yay!
I saw it on the chat. It was right when we clapped too. In sync. In sync.
All right. So yeah, if
Yes.
y'all have any questions or anything, feel free to talk to us about. Yeah, anything you have. Do you want to open the chat one?
Yes. 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 Hi, Georgie.
What are some challenges? Oh, Charlie asks, what are some challenges to organizing during this time?
Ooh.
I mean,
Yeah.
the obvious ones that come to mind are, the pandemic, right? Like the inability to safely gather sometimes, especially with large groups of people. I don't know if you have anything like, because Eddie actually recently organized an action at in solidarity with a lot of different Asian American groups here in Southern California. 9 other orgs. And maybe you can talk a little bit more about maybe some of the challenges you all face.
Well, with regard to that, a huge part of it is also messaging, because I know that everywhere you have the hashtag Stop Asian Hate, right? And so there's been discussion with regard to its use and its implication, what it means, right? It's like, okay, talking about hate crimes, but we also want to address the systemic racism that has been prevalent in our country, not only recently, not during 2020, not only during 2021, but historically throughout the timeline. And so for that event, we actually switched from Stop Asian Hate to focus more on building collective power. And so in that shows, our solidarity, because we can't win and we can't have these victories alone. We all fall down, one of us rise, we all rise. And so what's very important for us and through that event is to show that we can gather together, Filipinx or not, Asian or not, our Black and brown communities to fight against racism at that systemic level.
Right.
And so I also saw like another question there, but one other thing I wanted to mention too is yes, again, self-care, social work spiel. Yes, please take care of yourself, because time management and burnout, that is real. Shouts out to those who are tuning in, on Zoom. Totally feel you and understand. You can feel that Zoom burnout. So taking that time for you to re-energize and just regenerate to continue to do the work moving forward.
Yeah, and I think it was mentioned even earlier, like being a part of this movement is like, go at it at your own pace. Don't feel pressured to do more than you have to. But if you can do more, then go ahead and do more.
Yeah.
Maybe your place is tweeting about it. Maybe your place is taking part in coalition building.
Right.
Maybe your place is creating art about the issue. Every little piece is part of the movement as a whole. As one person, you can't be expected to do everything, you know what I mean?
Right.
So find your niche, find your strength, and work with that. Yeah.
All labor is valid.
Yes.
All labor is valid. Yes. And so we have a question here. Why the name Steady? Why the name Steady?
So my name is Stephanie.
My name is Eddie.
Steady. So it's basically our ship name.
Our ship name.
Sorry, my anime. Okay. Anyway, yes, it's our ship name.
Yeah.
Can you go down?
Yes. Let's see here.
What?
Yes.
Oh, Georgie, what has been your most positive experience while working as spoken word artists or community organizers?
Positive experience.
Oh, immediately for me is like the people that we've been able to connect with. Yeah, like being able to do this work. We don't work in silos. We are about connecting with other people, people from different experiences, and not just like people our age, but also like multi-generational folks, like learning from their experience. Doing work in like the 60s and 70s, so
like from their work, during like the martial law era, to work today.
Being able to connect with folks who have been part of this movement for so long has been super like a gift. It's been a gift, yeah.
And then to add to that, like multi-generational, I love working with the youth. There was one time where we performed at UC Santa Barbara, and so they have this high school outreach program, let them know about the importance of higher education. And so we performed our poem, same question, the "Where are you from" poem, right? And so we said like, "Oh, where are you from?" And everyone just shouted out.
Just started shouting out where they were from.
They were like, Montebello. They were like
San
Los
Diego,
Angeles, Santa Barbara. Just all throughout. And so, just that interactive piece, to feel connected through the poem, through our stories. Right. And that's what it's all about. And, and then after that, youth connected with us, and they write their own poems. And that's how I got started as a youth. I started when I was like 13 or 14 years old, signing up for an open mic, very shy and scared, yet with the support of Mike Asama, was able to share a poem. And 13, 14 years old, I shared I shared a love poem. So like what do you write about at that age? I was going through some heartache, but all about expressing yourself, Yeah. Like way before we obviously got together.
Anyway. But I think also another good positive experience has been to know that like our work as spoken word artists and our work as community organizers are not like separate. They're not mutually exclusive, that they tie together. And I think that our work with Sunday Jump has been a good example of that. Being able to provide a safe space for marginalized voices, because recognize like art, like we do not believe in art for art's sake. We believe that art has a point, that it has a purpose. And so being able to provide a space for people to share their stories in a safe environment, regardless of race, gender identity, ability, or disability, etc., has been one of the most positive experiences.
Definitely. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you for that question.
Yes. Art inspires action, and action brings about change.
Yes, agree.
So I'll do that. Yes. Yeah. Other questions? Other feedback?
Yeah, any question is fine. Anything about us, like. What are your hobbies? What are you like? What's your creative process like? Okay, for us.
Okay.
I
like writing. Depends. Yeah, it depends.
Okay, go ahead. You go. Go.
Okay. For me, I like writing with music. Growing up, listening to beats, and then later transitioning more into musical scores. That definitely drives the way that I write. And then however I'm feeling at that time, I usually find that spark really late, like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning. I'm not sure why, but sometimes, just at that moment is when I most feel it. Yeah.
We're definitely night owls.
Definitely.
For sure. Like, this is the social worker in Eddie's gonna be mad at me, but like 3 a.m. is not like a bad time for me. It's like, you should be sleeping. Nah, this is a good time for me. But in terms of the creative process for us, working together, what do? We usually like to find a topic that we want to talk about.
Right.
And typically it's usually has to do with like either current events and how that relates to our identity as Filipino Americans.
Right.
And then we'll usually, sit and write separately for like 5 minutes. Separate, and then we come back together.
So we don't influence each other.
Yeah, so we don't influence each other. We have our own thoughts and feelings about things, and then we'll come back together and see where we agree, maybe disagree, and sort of hash it out. So in a way, it's like both a creative process as well as like political ideology work.
Like ED and educational
Yeah.
discussion.
So, and then we'll work together to find ways to meld those points of view into a cohesive poem.
Yeah. Good question.
Yeah,
good question. This question from Isabel: being involved in community work can be very rewarding, but can also be a bit draining at times. How do y'all practice self-care?
Self-care, yeah. I mean, one of the biggest things that I had to learn, so we're in our like early 30s now, but like throughout our 20s, we were like, go, 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 get involved with everything, do everything. But I think like getting a little bit older now, learning to say no. And
it's a powerful thing.
It's a powerful thing. Expressing. So one of like our community guidelines in KMB, for example, is to respectfully express your boundaries and respect others' boundaries. So that's just one of the things. But as far as other self-care things,
for me, like, listen to music.
I know, like
watch movies.
I'm really into anime.
Really our ship name, yeah.
Our ship name. Yeah, so like being able to, so part of the saying no is also being able to carve out time for ourselves to do the things that we like to do, to be able to recharge, right? I'm very much an introvert, so
and I'm like an extrovert.
Yeah, so I need the time away from folks to be able to just, be with myself. And that's how I practice self-care.
For me, like with self-care, also recognizing self-care means community care too. Yes. So, getting to build with folks, online or at an open mic, but finding, those relationships are very self-fulfilling, very like empowering, like for myself to connect with others. And it's healing. It's all about that healing, to recognize that I'm not alone in the struggle that I'm experiencing, that, we're struggling through this together. And so, through that collective care, community care, able to, rise up. So, so community care.
Yeah, definitely. Part of that community care is like I know in KMB, for example, it's always like checking in with folks to make sure they're good,
How you feeling? How you doing?
Like to know that we are not like mindless soldiers in this movement, that we are people,
Right. Yeah. We practice working horizontally, right? Not from a top-down approach, like being like, hey, you have to do this, hey, you have to do that. But more so, like checking where a person is at and then going from there. Yeah. I have another question. Oh yeah, what is a recent work of art that isn't spoken word that has inspired you? Can include anime.
Thanks, oh my gosh, I love anime. I'm really into My Hero Academia and JJK, and I'm gonna get into skate soon. Anyway, oh my god.
Oh yeah, we're in our office now. I know you got stuff started.
I am like a really big. Okay, I'm such a nerd.
I love anime too. I love My Hero. I love My Hero.
Sorry, I'm like I'm girling right now. But like besides that, like I'm also a so when I was an undergrad, film was actually one of my majors. So film is like a big thing to AOT. Film is like a big like inspiration for me. I know recently we've been watching a lot of movies, one of which that we watched recently that I like think about a lot is Judas and the Black Messiah, like the Black Panthers. That has been like on my mind a lot recently.
Ooh, that's a heavy one. Yeah, definitely.
Film is like a huge, inspiration for me.
And while we're on that topic, this might be polarizing, or maybe not. I don't know. Folks have watched the 2017 Justice League, which I really hate. And so I watched the Snyder Cut most recently, and I'm very pleased with that. I'm a huge Batman fan, and just restored all the arcs in there. It was a well-made movie, and I like watching long movies. So 4 hours does not bother me quite a bit.
I know.
Yeah, so restore the Snyderverse, definitely, please. We need to see what happens next in Nightmares. We need to see what happens next. Yes.
Eddie's very passionate about it, and like literally and this is not a joke, they've watched it probably like 4 times already.
Yeah. I'll just have it in the background too.
Yeah.
But again, self-care, that's important. You need to disconnect sometimes, just to get grounded again, and then get to go back into it and swing things the next moment.
Agree.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, I think we might have time for maybe one or two more.
Not sure. Yes. Please let us know, Isabel, Georgie. How we're doing on time.
Yeah. If anyone has maybe like one or two, I think we might be able to do that.
Yeah, it's totally open. Totally open. Other questions?
I'm really slow at typing, so I'm gonna say this out loud if that's okay.
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
So your poem, like I think it was called Filipinx, mentions intersectionality in terms of not conforming to gender binary. And from my understanding, like especially modern mainstream Philippine society kind of really pushes the gender binary. So like I'd like to know more about like, I don't know, your experiences with that, or even like how you guys came to writing about like the poem Filipinx, because I know there's even on Twitter, there's a lot of discourse on between like Filipino community and Philam community between the use of the word Filipinx. So like I think that's a very interesting topic, and I'd like to hear your thoughts.
I agree. So the immediate thing that comes to mind, so there's a lot of like, how do you say this? Arguing? I don't know, for the lack of a better term, between right, like Filipino Americans and Filipinos regarding like the use of the word X. From the discourse that I have seen, a lot of folks back in the Philippines don't like the use of the term X. They see it as like Filipino covers everything.
That's already. Yeah.
But something that I think a lot of people don't know is the term Filipina is not because of the Spanish, like Filipino, Filipina is a woman.
Yeah.
That actually is also the result of political ideology that came out of the United States. It was based on Filipino women wanting to claim like their identities as Filipinas separate from Filipino, because similar to the conversations around Filipinx, like they don't feel like the word represents them, and so they created Filipina, and so I think people in the Philippines don't even realize that Filipina came from the United States, the same way that X is now coming from the United States to be more inclusive of people outside of the gender binary.
Right, and Filipina was okay, right? But as soon as it's Filipinx, it's like, whoa, wait,
because it's not in the binary. Which is so like, so frustrating, right?
And for me, myself, I identify as a gender queer, so Filipinx holds a real, warm place in my heart, in my journey and understanding like who I am. And so, I'm all for using the Filipinx, and and when the discussion saying like, we shouldn't do that, then it's very invalidating of my experience navigating, being between, like that gender binary. Let's break it, let's dismantle it, and let's think bigger. In our language. Well, I speak for Tagalog, but in our language, like "siya," right? Like that's gender neutral. Exactly. It wasn't until colonizers came through, and then like wreaked havoc, and then change our language.
Right. So colonization.
Yeah.
So that like changed so much for us. Like we didn't have gendered pronouns before Spanish came in, right?
Yeah, and also to name too that Filipinx is born out of Latinx, which I know also has like their own
discourse about it.
Regards to it, and even the word Filipino, right, is like, should it be even Filipino? Because wasn't Filipino born out of colonization?
Because it comes from like King Philip from Spain, or like
the people of Maharlika, So I mean, go on.
So all that to say that like language is always evolving, right?
It changes.
So like we may be saying Filipinx now, maybe we're going to be saying something else 2 years from now, and that's okay. Like I think that if the end result is validating folks' experiences and being more inclusive of folks, then why not? That's my opinion about it.
Yeah. Feeling safe. I feel safe when using the term Filipinx, and it's all about the safety of our people.
Yes.
Thank you. Question.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
So I think we have
so much,
like a couple more minutes, so if folks have any more questions.
Yes. Let's see, folks. Thank you. Very interesting. Agreed. Interesting.
I'll try to find like if folks want to connect with us. Like I have like articles and things like that about those types of things that yeah, we can share.
You can type in the chat like our contact information.
Oh yeah, I know they've been doing it, but like I know,
thank you.
yeah, I've been seeing it.
Yeah.
Oh, Instagram.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and share our Instagram at Right Steady. Same for Twitter. Same for YouTube.
Yeah, it's the same across Twitter, YouTube.
Let's stay connected. On YouTube, you can find our vlogs. We've gotten into gaming. We recently moved, and so we're in a new office space. So we definitely want to get back into creating more content in that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can stay connected with us in all those forums.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and please DM us too once you follow us and whatnot. You know, let us know that you heard of us. You know, through John's documents. You know, we do want to stay connected.
For sure. Yeah, I love. Oh yes, I love like connecting with folks and, you know, sharing each other's experiences and stories and like what we know. Like another community guideline in our K&B space is everyone is a learner, right? Like there's no one person that knows more than everyone else. We're always learning from each other. So
right.
Yeah.
So thank you again to Johns Hopkins University.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all for having us. Shouts out to the APIDA community. And yeah, let's just continue to do that work and reimagine what community safety looks like.
Yes.
We can do this together, y'all.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Isang bagsak.
Isang
bagsak.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you so much for those amazing poetry and this amazing conversation. Thank you to our audience for being here with us tonight. We definitely had a great time listening to your poetry and meaningful conversations. So thank you, Steady, for being here. And thanks to our audience for sharing your questions and thoughts and for all of your support as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I just dropped a link to our upcoming events. Shameless plug. We have a few more events coming up at OMA. Digital Diversity Day series will be featuring Professor Gerald Torres on April 8th, 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. We also have Identity Series and Cuisine Night coming up Tuesday, April 13th, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And our next APIDA celebration with our speaker, Angeline Chang, who's a very popular and interesting artist, pianist. And so she will be here joining us on April 15th as our keynote speaker for APIDA Speaker Series. And then we'll be having a culture show on April 23rd at 6 p.m. So thank you all for being here tonight. And please, feel free to register an RSVP when you get a chance. And if you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to email me, reach out to me, or you can also reach out to any of us from Office of Multicultural Affairs. Once again, my name is Masuma Lanzak, and I am the Programming Administrator at the Office of Multicultural Affairs. Have a wonderful evening.